Victory Boyd's life has always revolved around music. Coming from a musically inclined family of 11, Victory's career took off after Jay-Z's friend found her busking in Central Park. Singing since age 4, Detroit native Victory brings an eclectic sound rooted in soul, jazz, and folk. Now signed to Roc Nation with her debut album, The Broken Instrument, Victory is set to soar even higher and higher. This is Millennials in Music, with your host, Zeppelin Tillman.
Victory, I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for sitting with me. I think that you have such a powerful message and story that as the world continues to hear, it's something that's so necessary, especially for the younger generation, our generation. It's so necessary to kind of, hear people who have that true level of authenticity and, just it's inspirational. Can you start with telling me, did you always want to be a singer? Like, was that always the goal? Was there ever a moment where in your life you were like, I may want to be a doctor or a veterinarian, or was it like always, this was always a path?
Yeah, as far as I can remember, I've always wanted to be a singer.
Okay.
It was the thing I wanted to be the most because my older siblings were singers, and singing in our family was almost like a status of like maturity and like, the big kids sing, because
Gotcha.
my parents, they founded a children's choir.
Yeah.
And you had to be like 6 years old to join the choir. And I'm like, 6 is big to me as like a 3-year-old.
Absolutely. But you skipped the process though.
I did. They let me join when I was 4. And I so desperately wanted to sing up to 4 years old, that my whole life up to that point. And when they finally let me sing on stages, I just was like so grateful for the opportunity. And that was the foundation of my whole career, really just being grateful for the opportunity to be able to sing.
Wow. As you're speaking, you're saying from the moment you can remember, you always wanted to be a singer. It makes me think of this concept and idea of like purpose, right? And do we all have a purpose for why we're here? Do you feel like singing is your purpose, like you were put on this earth to sing, or is singing the vessel that's being used to?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, you described it perfectly. Whatever we as a people do, or whatever you do, I think it's amazing when you do it with purpose to inspire people and to just make something bigger than yourself, and when there are many vehicles to do and impact the world. For me, it's music, but for someone else, it might be being a doctor or, being a public leader or something like that. It could be anything, but for me, it's music.
What was the process for you kind of determining, this idea of purpose and it being something bigger than you? Because singing a lot of times, especially when you're young and you look at the people on television or in the, movies or magazines or wherever, there's like this, glamorized lifestyle to where it could feel selfish, but you're speaking about it from almost a place of giving and empowerment. What was that process like for you, understanding that, my gifts, my God-given talents is bigger than just, me?
Right. Well, I remember when I first started writing songs, I was 16 years old. And the context in which I wrote my first song was one where I discovered hope for myself in my own situations, in my own trials. And when I discovered hope and peace in my trials, I looked around and saw that, other kids that I was going to school with, they had the same thing. And so I decided to write a song to share with other people this same hope that I found for myself. It was simply just to share with them so maybe they could find the same hope. And I think that premise is the foundation of why I do the music that I do, is simply to share the hope that I discover in my own situations, in my own trials.
Do you remember the lyrics to that first song?
It was the first lyric that came to me, and it's the chorus of that song. It says, "Jesus, hear me when I cry. Don't leave me here to die."
Wow.
That was a prayer, and that was my honest feeling.
16?
At 16.
This is the most profound 16-year-old. I don't know what I was doing at 16.
Well,
it definitely wasn't.
It was a very difficult situation. My
Gotcha.
parents had just separated,
Wow.
and it was like my entire world was was just shaken. And that was an honest prayer from my gut. I was like 16. And so I just kept writing songs and figuring out ways to artistically express what's happening in my life, the bad, but also the good that continually meets the bad and overcomes as stronger.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So throughout this interview, we're going to play a few games with you. I know you said that you were born in 94.
Yeah.
All right. So what we did was we found some of the top R&B records in 94.
Please don't
so
embarrass me.
I'm going to play you like we're going to do like 10 seconds, 8 to 10 seconds. And you got to tell me who's the artist.
You're going to embarrass me.
No,
I probably won't know.
You got it. They're really, these are the top records.
I know. That's why it's going to be so bad.
I have no idea. All right, so you ready for the first one?
Okay.
All right, let's turn it up. All right.
Yikes. I need some lyrics. I need a voice.
That's what we got. You're all right. I'll do the instrumental one more time.
That could have been a theme song to a TV show.
It wasn't like a Disney like.
Could have been Jeopardy.
It could have been. It wasn't though. Like this is like Billboard Top 100. Like,
okay.
Like all right.
The Wheel of Fortune.
Not quite. All right, you want to hear what it was?
Right. Yes, I do.
You ready? Okay.
Oh.
Boyz II Men.
Yeah.
I'll Make Love to You.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, they were massive when I was born.
Yeah.
I was just being born.
No, absolutely, just being born. You moved to New York from Detroit.
Yes.
What do you remember being the biggest difference between, that move instantly? What was like the thing that stands out the most for you?
It was when we moved from Michigan. We weren't coming directly from Detroit.
Okay.
We were coming from a rural area, upstate Michigan, where it was very small town, cows and farms. So it was a very drastic difference between rural area Michigan and New York City, Midtown New York City. So it was huge. I think the biggest thing was really just the city itself, in terms of diversity, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the economy of New York City just being far surpassed the economy of upstate Michigan. And also the support for the arts in New York City.
Yes.
So all of those factors really just influenced my parents' decision to move to New York.
And I know the reason why you moved was obviously a family decision in order to be able to help fund it was the music, essentially, right? And so I think that your family story is super fascinating about the way that you all, is it made a living? Like, were you all essentially making a living by singing, in Central Park? And okay, so do you remember your first day singing in
New York?
In New York?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, we had driven all day and I think all night the night before, and our goal was to make it to Harlem to sing in front of the Apollo Theater as people were going to go see the body of James Brown, because he had just died a few days before on Christmas Day. It was like the time period between New Year's and Christmas.
I remember.
And, we went up to Harlem and we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't really make any money singing on a street corner in Harlem on 125th Street.
Right.
It wasn't the right spot. You can't just set up on any street corner in New York City. You have to know it just has
There's rules to this.
Right. No, well, you'll quickly find out when you're not making any money that you should probably find someplace else. But I mean, we did all right, but it wasn't anything special. But we decided to come back the next day. And we were on our way to Harlem again. We didn't know anything about the city. We just, we heard of Apollo Theater because you see it on TV or whatever. But we were on our way to Harlem again the next day, but got stuck in traffic on Fifth Avenue in New York City, Midtown. Think of all the major shops, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, all the Saks on Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
We were, it was Christmas time, so all the decorations, all the tourists.
The lights and all
Exactly, the lights. And my dad is like, forget Harlem, let's get out and get out right here.
Yeah.
Like, we're stuck in traffic anyway. Parked the car around the corner, went out and set up on some church steps. There's a few churches on Fifth Avenue. And tourists just were crowding all around just to hear us sing. It was almost like immediately we were some sort of tourist attraction. With this family singing in all like 5-part harmony, Christmas carols, and people just loved it. And it was like, wow, we just discovered something amazing here in New York City. And so that was our first successful experience of busking, as people call it.
Busking.
Yeah.
Love it.
In New York City, yeah.
Was there any fear? Was there any level of being scared, or I guess maybe, how old were you at the time when you made that?
12.
Okay, so you're 12. And so maybe that fear doesn't set in until later, if it ever does. But, sometimes people could be afraid of, like, what's the perception, or how are people going to see me? Did any of that exist at all?
No.
Okay.
Like, we were more excited about being able to perform in New York City.
The opportunity.
Yeah, think about kids from small towns in different parts of America. We were those kids.
Wow. Okay,
we lived in a very, very small town. The city wasn't even considered a city because the population was just so small.
What they call it?
It was, we lived in Shea Lake, Michigan.
Okay.
But it was counted, if you wanted to, like,
categorize it.
It was Silverwood, Michigan, which was the county.
Gotcha.
The county was even smaller than a city. But
so the opportunity just to sing in New York is like...
Exactly. So we weren't thinking about anything but how grateful we were to be like, wow, that's Trump Tower over there, which probably is not but it was like, you see it on TV.
At the time period, that was a big deal.
Yeah, you see it on TV, and it's like amazing. Like, that's right there, and that's Rockefeller Center, the big Christmas tree. You saw that on Home Alone. It was just, we were living in a movie. Yeah. So
from 12, when's the first time you sing by yourself outside of the family when you came to busking? So I know that, before the interview started, you had said that, you used to just take your guitar, right? Or right everywhere you went and just sing by yourself. So I'm assuming at that point, family or not, you wanted to just perform.
Oh yeah, by that time I was about 18.
That's the first time you kind of went by yourself for the first time?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was maybe 2 years after I had been playing the guitar and writing songs. I started playing the guitar around 16, which was around the time I wrote my first song.
Yes.
And so, yeah, pretty much around 2 years after that, I just had the confidence to, do extra singing aside from with my family, and I was well received wherever I went. So it was.
Favorite spot? Do you have a favorite spot that you?
Oh, I loved Brooklyn. There were several spots in Brooklyn where the acoustics are perfect in the train station, and the people, they just love art, and so it, and the trains didn't run that fast, so there's some beautiful spots there.
Wow. How does spirituality play a part in the way that you create your music?
For me, it's the inspiration comes from the Spirit of God. And I always want to capture what I feel the Spirit of God is giving to me, and I want to capture it and articulate it the best way I can into a song. But it's really just the way every time I'm comforted, every time I discover something new or feel an answer to a question that I have, those moments, that's when I, sit down and write.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it's not that deep. Sometimes it's just an amazing melody and an amazing line or hook that just came to me out of nowhere. And I just write it down and figure out, how it's supposed to, come to be, the whole song. But yeah.
Yeah. Your life, it seems extremely serendipitous, and you probably could not have even, called it, even if you tried.
No.
You have, almost like a fairy tale sort of event happen. Like, I think it's every singer's, dream for, what happened for you. Can you, I know you probably heard the question 1,000 times, so I'm going to try to ask it a different way. What was the moment after you get the email from, Jay-Z and his team? What is that like? After you've kind of understood, okay, this is real. What emotions are you going through when you get in bed that night after the dust is kind of settled a little bit?
Well, I just remember feeling a sense of destiny. Like, we've worked so hard for so many years. And also a sense of nervousness and like fear, but not, fear because like, wow, like, am I really going to go in there and meet one of the most famous people in the world, but also a sense of destiny. Like, yes, you are about to do that because you've worked so hard your entire life and God just opened this door. So yes.
Yeah. Final few questions. Being a part of having the partnership with Roc Nation, can you talk to me about how all of the years busking and, preparing, which is essentially what you did for, over a decade, it didn't just happen. You had to prepare. Can you talk to me about how the preparation has now helped you with, the spotlight and the opportunities and, the team and the engine that now comes behind the partnership that you have with Roc Nation?
Yeah, well, not only did all of that work help to make me the vocalist that I am today and the writer and the performer that I am today, but also just having the work ethic that I have now from doing all of that work for that many years definitely translates into this field, into this area where, we're working in the commercial music scene, and also our unit cohesion as a family, because our label is partnered with Roc Nation's label. Like, our unit cohesion that we got from working together for so many years, is definitely an asset as we work together in this commercial music aspect field. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So as we close, we always close with something that we call 8 and 45. So I'm going to give you 8 questions in 45 seconds.
Okay.
This or that type stuff, really easy. No more music. Don't worry. I promise. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Purple or magenta?
Magenta.
Kirk Franklin or Mary Mary?
Mary Mary. No, Kirk Franklin. I don't know. Mary Mary.
Spring or fall?
Fall.
Best food in New York?
Jacob's Pickle.
You're stuck on an island forever. You have two CDs that you have with you. What are they?
The Broken Instrument and Aretha Franklin's Amazing Grace.
Favorite book?
Hind's Feet on High Places.
Starburst or Skittles?
Starburst.
And one goal you want to accomplish by the end of the year?
Nominated for some Grammys.
As you should. As you should be. Victory, thank you so much for sitting here with me today. This was an absolute pleasure. Can you just, tell everyone where they can find you, social media, the new project, you right? Yeah, definitely the new project. Yeah, absolutely. The new project, what the single is, where they can find it, just how people can be blessed by your music, because they should be.
Yeah, well, it's simple. You just type in Victory on Tidal, Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, simply Victory. And my debut album, The Broken Instrument, will be the first thing that pops up. And also follow me on social media at Victory Boyd on all social media platforms. And if you're trying to come hear me perform live, go to my website, victoryboyd.com. I'm probably coming to your city this fall.
Love it.
Going on tour all over the United States this fall. So, yeah.
Victory, thank you so much again.